So we have a problem. This is the hood from my mom's favorite vest, and it got put in the dryer. So the fur is all messed up. This is a terrible problem, but I'm going to show you how to fix it. Here's what you're going to need: a marking pencil, hand sewing needles, pins, thread that matches your vest, a seam ripper, and some replacement faux fur. By the way, if you are working through all the projects in the series and you keep having to buy things, I have created a bundle. This is our Sewing Basics Toolkit bundle, and it has all the basic notions you're going to need for all of the alteration projects in this series, as well as any other little sewing projects that you're going to be doing. This is a detachable hood, so yours might still be on there. This one zips off. So the first thing you're going to do is take your seam ripper, and we have to remove this old fur. So we have an outer layer, we have a lining in here, and then shoved between the two layers is this fur. So take your seam ripper and just go in and start popping all these threads out. Okay, now that it's apart, you'll have your hood with the lining in the outer, and then the fur piece that you took off. And then inside of mine, it was a rolled up piece of fur with a little piece of batting inside, I guess to make there be more volume to the fur. Now we can lay out our fur with the wrong side up, and we can use our old piece of fur as a template to cut the new fur. So if we flatten this out, you can see it's a big long strip that has the edges tapered to a triangle. So just lay that down on your fur and take your marking pencil from your basic sewing toolkit bundle, and we're just going to begin tracing around the outside of this. So we're just going to draw directly on the back of the new fur piece, just tracing around where the actual fabric of the old piece ends. So not out here where the fur extends to, but where the fabric actually ends. That's the size that we want to cut the new piece. Once you've gotten your shape traced onto the fur fabric, there's something you should know about cutting this fur. So if you would just cut it normally, like this, see, the hair now has gotten a haircut. We don't want to cut the hair off like that. We want the hair to extend beyond the shape. So when you cut this, take your scissors and kind of put them so that all you're trying to cut through is just the fabric alone. So I'm taking the underneath blade and just trying to go and part the hair so that I'm only cutting the fabric. Like that. So then when you pull it away, you can see the hair separating, and it's still attached to both sides. We haven't cut through the actual fibers of the hair, it's still long. So just cut out your whole shape like that, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Now we have our new fur strip. So I'm going to put the piece of batting back in where it was, and we're going to fold this over to make a tube. You can stick a couple pins in this just to hold it temporarily. Okay, now the next part's going to be a little tedious. We have to take our rolled up tube and we have to push the fur out of the way so that we're just pinching together the two layers of that fur tube, and then we have to stick that inside of the two layers of the hood. So I'm going to start in the center. So I'm folding my tube end to end so I can find the center. So here's the center. I'm going to mark that with a pin that goes the other direction. Okay, that's the center of my fur. The center of the hood is easy to find because it's right in the middle of these two seams. So I'm going to mark that with a pin. Okay, so look at your fur and decide which way you want it to lay. I want it to lay like this when it's going over the back of the wearer. So if this was on the person like this, hanging, then I would want the fur to be like this. So that way if it was up on their head, the fur's going away from their face. You could decide how you want your fur to lay, just realize there are different ways it can go. And make sure you're happy with it before you move on. So now that point that I found as the center of my first strip is going to line up with the center of my hood, and I'm going to stick that inside here. So again, it is a bit tedious. So I'm holding the outer layer and the inner layer, and I'm pinching them so I know they are lined up right now. And I'm going to pin them, although I'm going to have to remove these pins to get all the fur out from underneath. And maybe that's just something you do as you sew this, because it is just going to take some time to get it all pinned in with the fur out of the way. So we want the fur completely out of the picture, and we're just holding on to the 2 layers of the fabric, and then shove those into the 2 layers of the hood, while making sure that the hood doesn't flip out. We need to keep all the raw edges of the hood inside, like that. So I'm going to pinch it and flip it over to the right side. And it looks good here too. And I'm just feeling through that fur to make sure I have the inner and outer aligned. And stick a pin. And just move your way down. Once it's all pinned in, you should have something that resembles the way your jacket used to look. So all that's left to do now is hand stitch this in. So you need a little bit of thread, actually a lot of thread. So get out a nice big long piece of thread that matches. Cut it. And you know my favorite trick and way of threading my needles is to bring both the cut ends of the thread together and put them both through the needle's eye together, so that I don't have to tie a knot when I begin. I can use this loop as an anchor. Let me show you how. Okay, so right at the very edge where the 2 layers come together, we're going to take our first stitch. So insert your needle close to the edge, coming through both layers, and come up. Pull it through, but don't pull it all the way through, because see this tail that we're pulling through? And now see that loop right there? We're going to use that loop as an anchor. So now before we do, we're just going to take our second stitch coming down from the top into the lining, pull through, and then stick your needle into that loop that we left. Stick it in that loop, and then when you pull tight, you have a little anchor and you didn't have to tie a knot. That is how I always thread my needles. So now it's going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to take some stitches all the way across the length of this fur piece. So I'm going to go in and out the top. And I'm just staying close to the edge in the same distance if I can. Pull through, and then take a stitch this direction. So we're just going in this way, and then up this way, and then down this way, and then up this way. And we're just going to do that all the way across. If you see your fur is looped under, pull it so it's free and the tails are sticking out. Like that. So when you pierce through, especially once you get into the fur section, you'll pierce through on the front and then flip it over and just make sure that needle is landing where you want it. If it's not, like this one's not, back it up a little bit and get it in line. So we just want all of our stitches to be more or less in line here. We're not too worried about how they look, but we're going to at least make a little effort. Oh, see that? The fur wants to pop out. See? See, that's the edge of the fur. That needs to go back inside. So as you're doing this, you have to make sure everything's staying where it's supposed to be. Just hold it in there, and then after you pierce it a couple times, it'll stay. And we're just going to work like this all the way across. All the way. And then once we get over here, we'll tie a little knot. Okay, I'm moving along, and here's how it's looking. So far, so good. When you get to where you're ready to tie the knot, just slide your needle under the last stitch that you made, grabbing only that thread. Pull the needle through, but again, don't pull it all the way through, because see that loop? Stick your needle in that loop, just like when we started, and then we can pull to tie a knot. Okay, and then just slip your needle right under that same thread again. I'm going to make a double knot and stick it in that loop again. Get the fur out of the way, pull it tight, and we now have a knot. So to hide this tail, don't just clip it off, we have to hide it. So slide the needle in to the fabric right about where you came out. We want the needle to go between the outer and the lining fabrics, and just travel a little bit, and then just come up somewhere random, like right there. Pull that through. There's where our thread came out. So now you can just clip that right up against the fabric, and the tail disappears inside the two layers. And we're finally done. So you can see that the fur covers everywhere that the stitching was. So even if your stitching doesn't look great, it is completely fine. And it's fixed. I can't wait to zip this back onto the vest. It was a success. So I really hope this helped you guys. If it did, please leave a comment down below. I want to know how this went for you, and if you have anything else to say. And I hope you'll give my video a like and subscribe to my channel so that next time you don't miss out on our video. So thank you for watching episode 8 of the Basic Alteration Sewing Skills series. I'm so glad you've been here with me. And if you have any suggestions for the next episode in the series, please drop a comment. I want to know what you have in your closet that needs fixed, and I can help you do that. So until next time, happy sewing, my friends. So go over to our website, shoppindrop.com, and you can grab your basic sewing toolkit bundle for $69. And then you can do all the projects in this series, plus lots more.